Everyone, welcome back to JSR. And this week we hit the crown jewel of the calendar. It is time for the Monaco Grand Prix here in Monte Carlo around the streets, which is going to be very, very difficult indeed. Now, this race needs no introduction because narrow streets, no runoff, and walls waiting at every single apex. Qualifying is everything here. It's old school racing at its finest. Make one mistake, you're possibly in the barriers, or for sure, definitely in the barriers as well. Play it safe, you're stuck in traffic. It's high risk, high reward, and absolute brutal to get right as well. Coming into this race, the title race is wide open. Milan Langer is back on top of the standings with 71 points after a good drive in the reverse race in Austria, but in the feature race in Austria, it went backwards after choosing the wrong strategy then. So we'll be looking to recover here in Monaco, of course, and let's see if he can continue his momentum after winning the first two races of the season and taking big points indeed. But alongside me as well is Nexus Bunnies, mate. Welcome on. How are you doing?
I am very good, and I'm very pleased to be here. It's my first time commentating on this league, and what better place to do it than Monaco? The difficult street circuit, only 3.3 kilometers in length. First Grand Prix in Formula 1, 1950, the opening year. It is the perfect place to start, and I cannot wait.
Indeed, and the first one to win it was Fangio as well, the four-time champion, making his beginning of his legendary career in F1 as well. So the legend of motorsport won the first Grand Prix, and we've got a few cars coming out of the circuit as well. Now, this year's Monaco Grand Prix was something different as a two-stop was implemented for this race, and we proved it was something different because obviously we expected something much more, let's say, more racy strategy, but at the same time though it didn't quite work because teammates together like Williams and Racing Bulls, they could like play the game of switching drivers around and holding people behind and creating that gap so their teammates could fit into it, get ahead and do their social strategy. Mercedes didn't pit until about over lap 60 or something like that. Even on their two-stop, that strategy did not work whatsoever. So you got to be very careful how you choose your strategy. There's only 13 drivers here as well, so it's not going to be a huge loss. But I think maybe starting on the hard compound tyres and trying to go long and wait for everybody else to pit, then do your pit stop as well. But I'm quite intrigued to see how the strategy is going to work because let's face it, overtaking around here is going to be an impossibility. I don't expect many overtakes. If we do, it's going to might be some desperate lunges. We already had one overtake at the Monaco Grand Prix back in the season where it was Lawrence Stroll around the outside of Nico Hulkenberg, surprisingly as well. But I was going on board with Eric then. Like you said, the shortest track, 3.3 kilometers, 2 miles as we head down towards turn 1 there, brushing the barriers as he hits the... Oh, Power Steve has retired already at the Nova Chicane. So that's qualifying ended prematurely. But watching Eric now make his way through the Casino Square and out of the corner we go where Mick Schumacher crashed as he loses the back end of the car. It's an 18.4 as we head down in towards Mirabeau, I think it is, where Nico Rosberg went off in 2014. In 2014, and a lot of people said it was purposeful, but Rosberg locked up going off the track, and Eric almost lost traction. He did, but keeps it pointing in the right direction. So you can see they're really struggling for traction. Is Eric, the man that won the Austrian Grand Prix twice as well, in the feature and in the sprint race as well. Eric collected the maximum amount of points he could get for that race, despite losing connection in Austria in the feature race. He came back strong and proved to be on the right strategy too. Coming towards the spin pool section now at 52.1 in the Rosetta as he jumps over the chicane there. Does Eric tackle the wall of the exit as we head in towards, I think it is the last cast, now coming towards Anthony Nose. In towards the final corner we go. DRS enabled. DRS is useless around here. There's no point of it as Eric crosses the line. It's going to be a 10.3 as the first lap time on the board.
Yeah, very impressive lap time, although Fireblaze already going ahead of him with a 110.1. Tim slots in behind with a 110.7, so about 6/10 covering the top three already, as we then have another driver, the Aston Martin driver of Kevin, sticks it in provisional pole with a 109.6. We're getting a large variety of lap times already. Already a second separates, or apologies, 2 seconds separates the majority of the grid with Milan Langer, setting a non-representative lap time. At the moment, we've got a lot of drivers now throwing in their laps. Everyone is on track, except, of course, the one driver who has retired from the session, but only one driver on an out lap. So we'll be seeing a lot of laps coming in now, and we'll be getting to get a bit more of a sense of the grid very, very shortly.
Hattekas goes up into P7. It was a McLaren 1-2 at the feature race in Austria, but both of them had chosen the wrong strategy because it looked like it worked, but it stopped raining. I thought it rained throughout the whole race in Austria, but they chose Inter, then they chose the medium compound tyres. So other people did Inter to medium, and that was the strategy because they pitted at the right time. Maybe had to wait a lap or two to get the tyres warmed up, etc. But it meant that other people had to do a two-stop, whilst they could do a one-stop from Inter to medium and avoid doing that double stint on the intermediate compound tyres because they were dead towards them as well with the 36-lap race around Austria where tyre wear is high, but around here a mandatory two-stop, and you don't need to be, if you're on pole, it's easy to just manage tyres because you're not under threat. Obviously, what I'm saying is that it will be difficult with the walls everywhere, and you got to pay attention at all times because one mistake could put you in the walls. But if you're at the lead of the Grand Prix, it is so easy to manage the tyres and not push as hard as well. Try and maintain them and make your strategy work as well. Whilst the rest of the guys behind you might do the undercut as well, because there's no way of overtaking. Qualifying is literally the definition of being very, very important indeed, because as they say in Formula 1, whoever gets down to the first corner wins. Well, this is the definition of doing that here at the Monaco Grand Prix as well. Track position is so vital as well around this circuit because you have nowhere else to go, basically, if you're down there in last place, unless a miracle happens with safety cars and strategies, with people crashing out, etc. So if people practice qualifying, then it should be all right for them.
Yep, and I'll point out that our provisional pole sitter was 2/10 up on his best lap time before invalidating at the swimming pool chicane, so a bit of a mistake there, unfortunately, for him, and he'll throw it right back into the pit lane, having made that mistake. Not sure if anybody else is on a flying lap. We'll see Milan coming into the pits himself. Sasha starting a flying lap, or perhaps just having finished one, in fact, putting himself into P6 here with a 110.4. So, a bit of lag there for me. I'm not sure what really happened there. Mummick, in the last position currently, is looking like they may be on a hot lap. We'll see how they do. They're going to enter enter the tunnel now. We'll see them after the Nouvelle chicane. We'll see what they can do through to back following this, and then we'll get a sense of where they are in terms of lap time. Let's see, through to back, manages it, not quite right, hits the barrier, does seem to have some front wing damage, or perhaps not. It's hard to tell with these walls so close to the car. We'll see here, going to go through the final corner now, open the DRS, and we'll see what this lap time is going to be. It's a 111.7, so only 1/10 off the back of the next slowest driver, but not quite what that driver will have been looking for.
That one with Nick, who regularly finishes inside the top 10 in the majority of this season as well, trying to pick up the points as well, because he did struggle in the last game, was spending his time near the back of the field, but he's slowly but surely steadily improving. He had a good run at the Austrian Grand Prix. I think it was Mum and Nick, and he was inside the top 10, but he does tend to make mistakes, sometimes overzealous the way he drives as well, by pushing the barrage of the car a bit too much, and therefore ends up in a spin. But we've got Eric then, the winner of the 2 Austrian Grand Prix in reverse and the feature race as well, as we make our way now on towards the main straight. We go with the DRS wide open. Let's see what Eric can do, because he's been looking fine so far this season as well, as we head through turn 1, hits the barrier on the exit 2, just scraping it, but gets away with it. I think he might have lost himself a bit of time as we climb up towards, I think it is the Casino Square. We go down through into Mirabeau. No, Martinet and Casino, I do get confused between the corners because I haven't done my track research for such a long time, because it's been a long time since I commentated in Monaco, so I haven't really done much research. But it's towards the hairpin then, where we've seen a few people might doubt the inside, but sometimes it could go wrong. Back in 2008, where I think with Fernando Alonso and a BMW Sauber made contact, and it caused a whole train of cars, a whole car park in towards the hairpin. Now coming towards the Nova chicane, where I think Brendan Hartley and Charles Leclerc made contact in 2018, and Pierre Gasly too against Yuki Tsunoda. Kimi Räikkönen on Adrian Sutil back in 2008, because Spiker was trying to score some decent points. They needed it after being a back market team, and unfortunately it got taken out by Kimi Räikkönen that day too, where Hamilton won the Grand Prix despite having a puncher. Eric, unfortunately, is down, so he must have made a mistake, which he has in turn 1, so must have backed off there, and he might be going for another flying lap. Milan Langer is down in the first sector by a few hundredths of a second as he drifts literally in towards the hairpin, then trying to rotate the car as much as he can. as we head now in towards Port. Here we go, where I think Jensen Button flipped over Pascal Wehrlein in 2017, if I remember correctly, because Button was reserved that day after Fernando Alonso was taking part in Le Mans, or Indy 500, sorry, and Button was the replacement, and he took out Wehrlein on that day too. In the McLaren as well. Here comes Milan towards the end of the sector. A bit of hesitation, hits the wall on the outside, but 6/10 up in this sector. That's a mighty improvement there for Milan Langer. You can see him just really pushing the car to the absolute limit, wringing the neck of that McLaren car, hits the barriers where Charles Leclerc did as well back in 2019 and broke his suspension. But DRS there for Milan Langer. Let's see if he can try and get himself inside the nines, and it is a 9.8. He puts himself ahead P3 ahead of Fireblaze.
Yeah, very impressive middle section of the lap there from Milan, although the last sector a little bit lacking, losing about 2/10 to the drivers in front with that, as Kevin goes even faster out in front. It's a 108.9. He's extended his margin out front to 9/10 of a second. That is an incredible gap. We will see if any of the drivers can match that with the remaining just over 7.5 minutes, as Eric goes up to second. A 109.4 is solid, but still a half-second gap out front. That is truly an incredible gap, especially at such a short track like Monaco. Somewhere like Belgium, a very long circuit, you might expect to see larger gaps like that more. But Monaco, the shortest track on the calendar, some would describe it as an oversized go-karting track, and yet half a second gap out front. That is truly an incredible time.
I agree as well. Fantastic lap time from Kevin Zonderberg, but Leroy goes a bit deep in towards Raskas and took a bit of time to get on the power there as well as he scoops with the car, headed towards Anthony Nose out the final corner as Leroy, who made his debut last week at the Austrian Grand Prix, goes up into P6, and also he scored a podium in the feature race as well with that brilliant drive to put his Williams up into P6 there as well in Monaco. Sacha Hood in a Ferrari is coming towards Raskas. We go in towards his right-hander, getting so close to the walls there, but he's up 0.3 of a second in that middle sector as he makes his way out of the final corner. Towards the line he goes with Stefan behind him. Sacha Hood goes up into P5 ahead of Fireblaze, and his teammate Stefan is behind him, and I think he stays in P8 for the time being. Then he just crossed the line, did the Ferrari driver, and stays there in 8th place as well. Misha coming towards Masnay. We go out of the corner down towards Mirabeau. Let's see if he's up or down. He's down in the first sector by 1/10 of a second, and this is a driver as well who has such good pace but has been so unfortunate in the last few races, especially back in Australia Grand Prix. He's so close to a podium but just seems to be getting away from him inch by inch as well during the race. I'm not quite sure what's going wrong for him, but his qualifying performances have been amazing so far, like you've seen today, Monaco and P3, but when it comes to the races, he does slip backwards, and Australia wasn't his fault, but elsewhere, he's had real potential, but just couldn't quite make it as he makes his way now in towards the back. Oh, hits the wall on the inside there, where Nico Rosberg lost it, I think, back in 2008 and smashed up his car, but he's purple in the middle sector is Misha, as he makes his way now towards Raskas. We go in towards second gear. Oh, he makes it back in the pit lane.
Yeah, that was a very impressive drift. I couldn't even tell if it was intentional to begin with, but very well controlled. And only 2 drivers out on track now make that one. It is Muminik, and he is on an invalidated lap, so no push laps going on right now, and I think that makes it a good time to bring up the tires. Every driver currently has been setting laps on soft compound tires. I would expect to see that to the end of qualifying, but the question becomes, what tires will drivers run during the race? It will be a 2-stop race, as you mentioned, unless there are safety cars that transform it into more than a 2-stop race, but for the time being we can expect it to be a 2-stop race, and that begs the question to be asked, which 3 sets of tires will be used? Will it be 2 sets of mediums and a set of hards? Maybe one of each, a soft, a medium, a hard? It really is impossible to say right now, but as a more experienced commentator with this league, I will ask you, what do you expect to see strategy-wise at this race?
Totally unpredictable. I have no idea. I actually don't know what the strategy could be, but I don't think the soft compound tyres will be used in the race because the tyre wear on the softs is just a bit too high on any circuit. But with a 2-stop strategy, how are the drivers going to play it out? Are they going to wait for each other to box as well? And when they do, then respond to come to the pit lane? Because one thing you don't want to do, like for example Kevin in first place, is rejoin a whole bunch of traffic, pit too early on the set of mediums or set of hards, and rejoin in traffic, because 9 out of 10 he might not overtake. Despite having blistering pace, he just can't seem to overtake around here unless the guy ahead of you makes a mistake or puts it in the wall. So drivers got to be very aware of how this race is going to go. Watch out for the track map. Use all the information around them to see what all the drivers are doing as well. And it could be a case of people reacting to each other or try to go as long as they can and hope that people behind them pit as well. But maybe the hardcore power tyres in the first stint because, let's say, for example, I actually don't know. It could be unpredictable. We could see a real change-up and mix-up in the strategy as well. Maybe Mum and Nick could have a big chance as well, being up there as well. We never know what happens around here in Monaco. But there's 3 minutes left to go on the clock, and the dying stages of qualifying are happening right now with Eric, Misha, Leroy, Tim, and Hatikas all on an out lap as we watch the McLaren driver. Now, Hatikas and Milan Langer have been looking very strong as well this season. Of course, his teammate is leading the championship with 71 points on the board, and Hatikas is P5 with 37. Didn't have a good race in Australia, but ever since then he's bounced back really well. And I know at the Austrian Grand Prix as well, there was more potential for both McLarens. He finished P3 in the reverse race, and he finished P2, I think, in the feature race. So it's looking good so far for McLaren, for Milan Langer and Hatikas, despite their blunders at the Austrian Grand Prix. But we're on board with the McLaren driver as he now heads towards the Casino Square we go. We're back in 2008, where we saw Toro Rosso and Red Bull into each other. Max Verstappen as well back in 2016 when he crashed in the wall. But a good improvement so far. 2 and a bit tenths up in this first sector. As you can see, a lot of these drivers are rear-locking the brakes on purpose to have more rotation and get themselves out of the corner. Maybe that's the quickest way to go, drifting. But obviously, in real life, that's not the way you want to go at all in Formula 1 modern-day cars. But on the game, you can get away with it. Now headed through towards the Nova Chicane, downhill. You want to avoid the wall on the inside. It's so easy. This wall can catch a lot of people out as well, especially on the inside here. But I've seen multiple people crash as well in the past as we head towards the to back corner we go. Now coming through this Liverpool section, 0.6 of a second is an improvement for Hatikas. That could put him in a 10.2, but can he find more time to try and progress his way up the order as he makes his way out of the final 2 corners we go? Let's see what the McLaren driver can do as he has a bit of a twitch on the exit of the final corner. He goes up into P7 ahead of Leroy, and I think that's his final lap there for Hatikas, as Leroy is a few hundreds up himself in this middle sector. Is Williams driver, made his debut last week, like I mentioned, at the Austrian Grand Prix. Looks like a promising driver, does Leroy, as the Dutchman makes his way out of the final corner, progresses towards the line. He goes up into P5. Wow, great lap time there indeed, and he found 3/10 in the final sector despite being down in the middle.
Yeah, and I can actually, Leroy's the only driver I can comment on here. I've raced against him many times before, and I can promise you, that man is a promising driver. I think you'll be seeing a lot more success from him in the coming times as he does get in the way of an Alpine there a little bit. Fireblaze perhaps being a little bit impeded there. But that is our P3 sitter, Misha, out of the session. That is going to put their attempt to get on the front row to a close. That is big news with only a minute or 2 left in this session.
And luckily for you, I caught it as well. So he just hit the wall on the inside on the Casino Square, and unfortunately just crashed out as well. So Misha's qualifying has ended prematurely. But Eric is coming towards the hairpin now, and let's see if he can improve in the Mercedes. He's got a big gap, big deficit to make up as he literally hits the wall on the outside. They're trying to use every single inch of this racetrack as you want to do, but it's just a fine margins between the walls and the boundaries of the track as well as we head down in towards the Nova Chicane, one of the most dreaded chicanes as well, because it's so easy to hit the wall or invalidate on the exit too, so be very careful. But it looks like it's going well for him so far as he gets super close on the edge towards the back. Now make his way through the swivel pool session. You can see this, unfortunately, he has invalidated, and he's so frustrated too, as Milan Langer is the next one now to cross the line as he makes his way towards Raskas. We go into towards second gear, rotates the car, the nose poisoning, coming towards the final corner. Be very patient on the throttle here, as it's easy to have massive wheel spin on the exit too. Here comes Milan towards the line. It's going to be a 9.3, and Milan Langer goes up into P2 behind his championship rival of Kevin Zunderberg. What a great qualifying once again from Milan, and let's see if anybody else can improve. Sasha, unfortunately, has invalidated in the Nova Chicane as Kevin Zunderberg once again raises the bar as Eastbrand is in the session. I haven't seen that man for a long time, but he's back here. Of course, a champion in SDN. I know SDN and JSR are quite close with each other as well, as Fireblaze is 3/10 up in the middle sector. Nice to have Eastbound back. He hasn't been around since the Australian Grand Prix, where he left very early, so he will be starting last place. But here comes Fireblaze. Let's see what the RPG could do. He's a very consistent driver indeed, as he makes his way now towards the line. He goes up into P4 behind Eric, and I think qualifying is done and dusted. We'll have 14 drivers on the grid, but Kevin Zundberg, this man, looks like he's unstoppable so far in this session. Look at the gap, about 0.7 of a second between Milan and Kevin Zundberg. What an incredible lap time there for Kevin.
Yeah, that truly is something. What a lap from Kevin. That is just... Yeah, I think that is nigh unmatchable. I think all the drivers on this grid, they seem to have put in very, very impressive lap times, but Kevin just blew me away in that session. That was really an incredible, incredible lap from him there. And now we'll just wait for the game to consider Leroy to have finished. And it has now. We have our grid set.
I haven't seen much of a gap like that since what? Around here in Monaco since 80 Senna in 1988 when he had a 1.4 second gap towards his teammate Frost at the time. But yeah, what a margin to have as well over the rest of the field. Great confidence going towards the race. And look at that gap, it was actually 0.7 of a second, so my maths was a bit off there. I'm not good with maths, despite being a commentator, where it's very important. But Milan's second place ahead of Eric. Fireblaze fourth ahead of Misha, Stefan, Leroy, Sasha Hood, Khatikas, Torpe, P10 ahead of Tim, Mum and Nick, Eastbound will actually start P13 because Power C retired, so it actually moves up one spot despite not being here. But Power Seam unfortunately crashed in the early stages of qualifying, and that's why he is out of the race. Misha hit the wall in towards, I think it's turn 4 or 5. It does get confusing with the names sometimes. I used to be very good because I commentated around Monaco quite a lot, but I don't really enjoy it anymore, so I haven't really done much research. So I can't memorise all the corner names like I used to in commentating, but oh well, we'll try our best. But the Monaco Grand Prix back in 1996, remember, only had 3 finishers, and it was Olivier Panis's first win, a shock win as well, because torrential rain led to chaos on that day, and he was the first French winner, I think, as well, back in 1996. No, he wasn't. Sorry about that. I meant Pierre Gasly was the first French winner since 1996 when Olivier Panis took the win, and Gasly took it in 2020 at the Monza Grand Prix. But yeah. Then 2006, Schumacher had his parking incident as well. It was very controversial because Schumacher just ported in Raskas, and that meant other people could say Paul either around the circuit. That's the way sometimes can be very, very selfish and be very crafty in how you do things as well to try and get Paul around in Monaco, because Nico Rosberg did the same thing back in 2014. Well, allegedly, because we don't actually know if he did it or not, but it was a bit of a coincidence as well, because Hamilton and Rosberg were both on their flying laps. Formation lap, there's no formation lap, we're going to get straight into it then. We are underway for the Monaco Grand Prix, and let's see who gets a better start off the line. It doesn't look like Kevin gets a better start ahead of Milan Langer as we head down towards turn 1. The Alpine Fireblaze defended from Misha behind as they all fire through. But look at Milan, gets a good launch out of turn 1, but he doesn't want to make a move just yet as he stays behind. Oh, Kevin goes a bit deeper towards the corner. Let's see if Milan gets him on the exit. He doesn't. So Kevin had a wide moment in towards the Casino Square, but gets away with it, and he stays in first place. But Eric hits the back of Milan as we head down in towards the hairpin. Is anybody try and be brave and send one of the inside in towards the hairpin? Who's that coming through? Oh, contact there between a Red Bull. Who's that? That's Power C. He's had contact with somebody. There's a ghosted car coming through people as well. And he still goes, that's Torpe in the Haas, who's still a ghosted car, trying to take as much opportunities as he can to get through people whilst being a ghost. But now he's solid and he's up into P10. But what a shame there for Power C in P14. But it is Kevin Zundberg who leads the Grand Prix ahead of Milan Langer.
Yeah, very chaotic opening lap, particularly at the back, but some small mistakes from the front runners gave opportunities. None were able to be taken. Every driver on this grid has started on the medium compound tires, so there is no tire advantage or disadvantage for anybody at the beginning of this race. We'll see Kevin is going to lead us across the line. He has led our first lap of the race from pole. We'll see what he can do in the remainder of the race. Brushes the barrier out of turn 1. But that shouldn't affect him too heavily, as we do have a retirement. It seems to be in the pit lane, though, as we also have Tim and Power Seam in the pits. Both of them repairing front wings, it looks like. It is a shame that their races have already gone that way.
It is indeed. Then they pitted. They've done the mandatory. They've done the one stop. So in the next pit stop, they completed the second stop. But we'll have to do a third stop because it's so early in the Grand Prix. They'll have to do 3 stops because the tyre wear can be so high around here as well. Unforgiving. Fireblades has dropped back on the DRS, but that doesn't really matter because DRS is very useless around here as well as we head in towards the Nova chicane. So there's a bit of a gap as well between Fireblades and Eric. The top 3 seems to be pulling away as Leroy is the first one in the field on lap 2 to pick up a 3-second time penalty, and expect as well penalties to be handed out as well, as it's very difficult this track. Concentration is absolutely high. 1 lapse in concentration, a slight misjudgment means the validation, a penalty or a push against the barriers, so you've got to be very careful. Now with the weather looking like this, the track looks a bit greasy out there too, so I wonder, could the rain impact the circuit as both Ferraris have swapped places there? I think that could be orchestrated unless Stefan made a mistake out of the corner. Sasha Hood is up into P6 and ahead of his teammate and ahead of Leroy as well for good measure, as both Ferraris ahead of both Williams as well. I wonder how the strategy could play out because there's 2 teammates together, which means they could play the strategy game against Leroy in the behind as well. Could Stefan be used as bait? Because ideally the second driver in the field, the second Ferrari driver that was the teammate, could be used as bait and therefore hold up the rest of the pack while Sasha Hood gets a good advantage and pulls away. But we'll see how the strategy plays out, because I know it's frustrating to see it, but sometimes in F1 you have to be very selfish and you've got to play that strategy card because that's the way you get the most points as well. Eric has dropped back from Milan Langer. Milan's staying in touch with Kevin Zunderberg, the 2 championship rivals in first and a second place there together on the circuit, but we know overtaking is so difficult around here too. So actually Eric is ahead of Kevin Zunderberg because Kevin had a terrible race back in Austria twice as well in the feature and reversed as Eastbound has after session. So Kevin's dropped back a bit from Milan and Eric in the championship, but the top 3 in the championship is the top 3 in the Grand Prix.
Yeah, and a very representative race when you mention it like that. Top 3, as you said, top 3 in the championship. And we'll see. I do wonder if that will cause some controversy here. The 3 of them will probably be thinking about each other the most in the championship, and therefore in this race as well. So we'll see maybe any desperate moves being made, not necessarily just because it's Monaco, but because it's for championship position, should it all go well. But it could be disastrous if it goes wrong. These drivers need to keep that in mind. Mistakes will be punished at Monaco. That is the nature of a circuit like this, one of the most historic circuits in Formula 1, but also one of the most difficult and dangerous for modern day drivers. The barriers come at you left, right, and center. We'll see what these drivers can do, but the top 3 spread only across about a second. Oh, as there's contact for Eric against the wall, making a mistake through to back. He'll hopefully get away with that without damage, though.
Yeah, hopefully as well, because he's got Fireblades at the back of it. Leroy's gone for a spin. It's a back there. Has he hit the wall? He has, or just spun out the corner. And looks like his front wing's still intact, so must have spun around and avoided the barriers. Luckily for him, he rejoins in P11. He was behind both Ferraris as well, or Sasha Hood and Stefan in the Ferraris, their P6 and P7 running line astern, as Sasha Hood is putting pressure on Misha in front of him. But Eric's dropped backwards now in the clutches of Fireblades behind him. The gap is 0.7 of a second between Fireblades. Oh, contact again. He hits the inside wall and he scrapes the outside wall too. So that's a double blow there for Eric as well. How many times is he going to hit the wall and escape free with no damage? Surely there's minor damage on that Mercedes, but not too severe. Hopefully for his sake, because Fireblades on the back of him. I think Eric should take it easy, knowing that the top 2 pulled away. And for the championship's sake, don't do anything irrational, and try and get as most points as you can, because you can't overtake and it's easy to defend, so might as well focus on the guys behind you, because the more you put pressure on yourself like this, you keep slamming the corners. Looks like the Mercedes is so twitchy and so nervy there. Maybe the setup, maybe he's driving, who knows, but unfortunately he seems to be losing a lot of time and he's lost the top 2 now, so has got to focus behind him. And with it, the difficulty being so difficult to overtake around here in Monaco, he could just defend for Fireblades, try not to push too hard in the corners, make sure he doesn't lose the rear every single time, because he's been so close to losing his wing or potentially his tyres as well. And he's got to think about long-term championship, because every single point matters as well. Even in Monaco around here, it's so frustrating when you slide around so much, but you've got to have the race mentality. You've got to think long ahead in the championship. It's not just one race, it's a whole season long, and this race is very important as well. Every single race matters on the race calendar, whether you like it or not, or if you're good at it or not. Every single point counts right here, so you can't afford to make any mistakes. I think he just needs to drive carefully now and make sure he doesn't lose his wing, etc. And Sasha Hood looks like he's putting pressure on the Red Bull. The Red Bull there seems to be struggling with both Ferraris on the back of his tails there. How much of a defence can Misha put up against both Ferraris? Let's see then how difficult it is to overtake him out here. Tim, Leroy is in the pit lane, so both Williams are last, unfortunately, in P12 and P13 there, as Leroy is a fall. I thought for 1 second that the Red Bull hit the wall on the edge, but he didn't. He just locked the rears up, going towards the no chicane there, but still under massive pressure as well. I know it's easier said than done, but when you're Bakar defending, it seems easy to defend. Oh, Sasha Hood lost traction out of there, bounced over the curbs, and now the Ferrari's going through. This is a big chance for the Ferrari to get through now, but he's a ghosted car as the Red Bull driver, as Sasha Hood will have the DRS on the back of the Red Bull, but the back of the Red Bull seems to be wandering around so much. Here comes the Ferrari along the outside, but no room there. He backs off, maybe go for the switch back on the entry, but he can't do it as Misha stays at P5 for the time being.
Yeah, some wonderful defense there from Misha. Oh, a big mistake from Misha again. This Ferrari pairing and the Red Bull getting very close as Misha actually lets both of the Ferraris through there. Very surprising moment there from him, just letting the two Ferraris go, deciding, okay, this isn't my battle, I can't keep the car going forwards in front of them, so I'll just have to put it behind them and see what I can do in their wheel tracks.
Yeah, I think you see Misha's really struggling there. Didn't want to make contact with the two guys behind, ruining their race, so he let them go. Now they're up into P5 and P6. Now, last 2 weeks ago at the Imola Grand Prix, we saw how both Ferraris scrapped off the podium, and I think it was Stefan making contact with his teammate Sasha Hood, and it dropped him off the podium. But towards the end of the race, he let him go and allowed Sasha to get the podium as well. So Ferrari has scored a podium. Misha as well, aggressively against the barriers. He's lost his end plate too for good measure. So a trip to the pits, well, you don't really want to do that if you can hold track position around here in Monaco. But look at that massive wheel spin. I just heard the wheel spin as Mum and Nick has pitted then quite early in the Grand Prix, but of course this could help him benefit later on in the Grand Prix. Milan Langer is close towards Kevin Zunderberg, and I think it's just about reacting to each other, see what those two do. Now Hadikas is P8 and the gap to leader is about 40.1 seconds as Milan has a massive moment. So I wonder if Kevin is trying to extend his stint as much as he can and making sure he rejoins in front of one McLaren of Hadikas there to make sure they get stuck behind him and give the advantage towards Milan Langer. I'm not quite sure how close the McLarens are in terms of working with each other. We saw them race with each other cleanly in the Austrian Grand Prix, but in terms of strategy, maybe Kevin Zundberg could rejoin behind Hadikas and help his teammate Milan Langer.
Yeah, it's very interesting to consider the team games that could be going on here as Misha picks up a 3-second time penalty, and that will hurt because currently the McLaren driver behind him is within 3 seconds of him, so that is the race going from bad to worse for Misha, who just seems to make mistake after mistake right now. That car doesn't seem to want to do anything useful, and it's into the pits for the Red Bull driver, having lost both end plates. Presumably they'll replace their front wing, but that will release... Oh, it won't actually release Milan Langer's teammate, who also takes a pit stop, so that's very interesting to see. We'll see a lot of team politics during this race, potentially, though. The two Ferraris close together, maybe trying not to battle too much. As you mentioned, the McLarens possibly, having the potential to play a team game if Kevin had come out behind Milan's teammate, but that won't be an opportunity now. It'll be very interesting to see throughout this race.
Misha has spun, I think, or who's made a mistake down towards the first sector. Both Red Bulls are together. Power C retired in qualifying, remember? Hence, he starts at the back of the field. He made his pit stop already early on in the Grand Prix after making contact in towards the hair, but he's still going, but his team is behind us. Might as well, yep, he lets him go. So that's good teamwork there. There's no point holding up your faster Red Bull teammate in a different race compared to you, as he's fighting possibly with the both Ferrari drivers and the Haasman of Torpey in P7 as well. So he lets him go, and Misha can focus on his own race now. He might be stuck behind Hadikas. Hadikas is on the hardcore power tyres, of course, in the McLaren, followed by Mum and Nick. So the undercut has worked. Mum and Nick has got ahead of the McLaren driver by pitting one lap earlier and getting ahead of the McLaren, which tells me the undercut can be very powerful, as we've got more people now pitting in this field. That's Stefan, who's got the midi compound tyres, and that's going to be a short stint on those mediums once he put on those tyres, and he goes on the hards on his next tip. And Milan Langer is dangerously close towards Kevin. Look at that, he's super close, is the McLaren driver. But let's see then if the McLaren can force a launch anywhere. But when you're the driver attacking, you could force Kevin into a mistake as well, because Kevin's going to be thinking about you. As Misha's retired, he's just kept in the pit lane, and he's retired in the race. I don't know why he's done that. Maybe he wanted the hard compound tyres in the second stint on the mediums. Who knows? But unfortunately, he's out of the Grand Prix. But Milan then, all over the back of Kevin Zunderberg, puts him under massive pressure. And Milan Langer, if he continues this pressure, he could force Kevin into a mistake, because sometimes Kevin might be forced into a mistake by being under so much pressure. Think about what Milan's doing, and may make a mistake in towards the corners by outbrake himself or losing traction, etc. So if Milan can keep putting pressure on, he might force Kevin into an unforced error and try to take the lead. But easier said than done, of course. Kevin is an experienced driver. He knows what to do around here in Monaco and any track as well. Eric Fireblaze has pitted 2 to get off those mini compound tyres, and maybe this is a sign now where these two can come to the pit lane. Will Milan think about doing an undercut? What's the gap between him and the nearest competitor? Torpe is quite far behind as well, so maybe those two might slot into first and second, because Torpe is about, when the gap updates, 18-19 seconds behind, so maybe not yet, maybe 1 or 2 laps before they can start thinking about pitting, trying to extend that gap, unless Torpe pits first, then those two can pit. But these two are running their own race in first and second place, but it's all about the strategy as well here in Monaco, and trying to keep it out of the wars.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth noting, as you pointed out, just the lap or two ago, the undercut here is very powerful, and I think Milan needs to pay attention to that. And I think Milan putting so much pressure on Kevin, but not able to find a way through. Perhaps an undercut would be the way to go. As soon as it seems viable to pit, maybe pull off a pit stop, see if you can get the undercut on Kevin, because I do think at this stage in the race, Milan's pace is better than Kevin's, as we see a bit of a lockup there from Kevin, and it's actually going to be both of our leading duo into the pits, perhaps covering off Eric, who pitted at the end of last lap. I don't think he'll be close enough to pull off an undercut of any sorts, but he could get a bit closer, and Torpe, if he chooses not to pit, could take the lead of this late race for a little bit, but it doesn't seem like he will, as Kevin and Milan already coming out of the pit lane. They will retain the lead of this race reasonably comfortably, and we'll see how this battle between these two goes from here on out.
Both on the mini compound tyres, as Milan are trying everything he can to get past Kevin Zunderberg, but Kevin's placing the car in the right moments as well, making sure that Milan has no way past him on the inside and the outside as well. But Milan is looking for one small mistake, and that mistake he could capitalise as well. So he's trying to put so much pressure. It's really difficult to drive as well in front of us. Like, for example, with the amount of pressure sustained on your shoulders, it's just so easy to make a mistake around it. But you know you've got the benefit of track position, so the pressure might not be high. It depends what type of driver you are. If you see the guy behind you continuously putting pressure on you because you want an easy race, you want to relax out there, especially in Monaco. But you've got to pay attention to the walls as well, with the track limits, with the guy behind you putting so much pressure on as well, and the strategy too. Eric! Oh, contact in towards the chicane as Eric forces Torpe out of the way, and he made contact with him on the left front there. He did not want to waste any time, but that was an audacious lunge up the inside. Desperate calls, desperate times, desperate measures from Eric there, unfortunately for him. And Torpe has rejoined in P6 then, as Sacha Hood is right behind him too, as the Ferrari might try to lunge up the inside. He can! Can he make it stick? Yes, he does. Up into P6, so he makes it stick, but of course, there's a huge tyre deficit between both of them, as Torpe is staying out there as well on the mini compound tyres. So quite interesting to see what his strategy is, but might as well pit now because he has lost his track position he gained when the guys pitted, and Tim has retired. Is that a safety car? Has a safety car been deployed? And it has! A safety car has been deployed. It's a VSC, I think. A VSC has been deployed. Yes, it is. You can see there on the black box above Leroy's head that the VSC has been deployed.
Wow, so that could throw a spanner in the works. I think that's exactly what Torpe was hoping for, but unfortunately coming at the wrong part of the lap for him, so we'll see how long this VSC lasts. If it lasts long enough, I think Torpe will pit under the BSC, take advantage of that minimalized time loss, and see about getting his first pit stop in that way. Oh, it's a penalty for Eric. It's a drive-through for speeding under BSC, and we're already back to green. There's a move in the tunnel from Fireblaze into P3 on Eric, and Eric just two bad things in one go there. Gets the speeding under BSC penalty and gets overtaken in the tunnel. Apologies for tripping over my words there, but Fireblaze, a very, very opportunistic move there, but well done from him to take P3 in the Alpine.
You really see overtakes in the tunnel, and Fireblaze did it because he caught Eric napping. Eric slammed the brakes to adhere to his delta, but already exceeded it, and he got himself a drive to penalty. These are mistakes you cannot be afford to be making, especially around Monaco as well, because Eric's got such good pace. He went from hero here at the Austrian Grand Prix last week to zero at the Monaco Grand Prix, because that drive to penalty was detrimental. Plus another pit stop as Eric's retired in the wall. He is out of the race, and a safety car, the full-blown safety car, has been deployed, which means people can do their second stop on the hardcore power tyres, but 24 laps of the hardcore power tyres is a bit of a stretch, but I dare say can be done, especially around in Monaco as well, where you can save the tyres by not pushing too hard. So tyre management is going to be very, very key when it comes to this part of the race now, when the safety car has been deployed. But not even halfway through this Grand Prix, nowhere near halfway through this Grand Prix just yet. But Eric has caused the safety car, and getting so frustrated under the collar there is Eric, not thinking emotionally rather than rationally, because he had such good pace, good track position over Fireblaze, but that VSC, by speeding under VSC, that's the things you don't need in championship fight as well. Those small things you may think, oh, it doesn't matter, but it does. Every single moment happens, and it all matters as well. But these two are going to put on them hardcore powered tyres, because I don't think the mediums can go towards the end, so into the pit lane these two come. What's the phase like now for this Grand Prix? Because the people on the mini-car powered tyres, let's see, do people have another set of hards if they already used the set? But look at Fireblaze going through. Fireblaze takes the lead of the Grand Prix. But I'm not quite sure how the strategy is going to work for him as he slows right down to adhere to his delta. Sasha Hood is up into P2 as well. So these two are taking track position as well. And I wonder, can the hardcore power tyres go towards the end? What's their stint like as well during the phase of the Grand Prix? Are they going to make it, or are they going to suffer a bit as well?
Yeah, it's hard to say, honestly. It's a very difficult situation here. We've only got 3 drivers now who have failed to take both of their mandatory pit stops. Those being Torpey, who's only done the one, Sasha and Fireblaze, who both only done the one, but Torpey just took his first pit stop. Sasha and Fireblaze have chosen not to take their second pit stop here. That is a very, very interesting strategy call. Torpey didn't really have a choice. He had to pit here and do his first pit stop. But Fireblaze and Sasha choosing not to pit at this point in time, that could be disastrous if it goes wrong, but could be absolutely incredible. A masterstroke if it goes right. We'll see Leroy into the pits as well. At the back of the pack, he will join up to the end of this train before the end of the safety car, luckily for him, so he will be brought right back into this event. And despite his penalties, he will be back in, even with the 6 seconds worth of time penalties. He'll be alright, but Mummynick also has a drive-through. I hadn't noticed that. I don't know where he got that, but that will not be good for him.
No, it's not. P7 on the new set of mini-car powered tyres, and let's see what his tyre allocation has been like. So it's medium, hard, medium. That could be a bit of a struggle there, because I'm not quite sure what people have chosen in terms of strategy, because you can choose a softer strategy, which you don't want to do around any race circuit, and the balanced strategy, which means you get 3 sets of soft, 2 sets of meds, and 1 set of hardcore powered tyres. And the harder strategy is the 2 sets of softs, 2 sets of meds, and 2 sets of the hardcore powered tyres. And I think majority of people could have chosen the harder strategy as well. Depends on qualified as well. Depends if people have. I'm not quite sure how many soft powered tyres people have used in qualify, because it's all different. I can't keep up with every single drive to see what the progress is like and what they've done. But for those people who haven't chosen the harder strategy and on the balanced strategy as well, this could be at the wrong time for these guys for the safety car as well, because it's a bit too early on in the Grand Prix as well. And if they do got to stop again, what tyre is going to be? Because what tyre do they have left, depending if they manage to save a set of tyres as well and be good about the strategy. But the top 2 stayed out, maybe thinking about the long-term game in terms of people struggling the hardcore powered tyres or not making it towards the end. So these two take a track position, and this could be very interesting to see how these two hold up and interfere with this race as well, because Kevin Soderberg is in P3. It's going to be so difficult to get past those two. He might just wait for those people to come into the pit lane and go on their second mandatory pit stop. So that's Kevin's his main target is focusing on Malanga behind him. I'm going to take a sip of water because I've not done that so far in the Grand Prix, so I'm going to go take a glass of water. Be right back.
one of the biggest advantages of leading the Monaco Grand Prix will always be that you have that clean air. Of course, it's nice to just have clean air. You don't have to worry about understeering corners from dirty air. But one of the biggest things about leading the Monaco Grand Prix is that you get the opportunity to be the one controlling the pace. That's the advantage that Fireblaze has right now. Kevin had held that advantage throughout effectively the entire race up until now. Despite pressure from Milan, he could always choose what the pace was going to be for the two of them. Now, this is going to change things up though, because Fireblaze will choose that pace. And what that means is that Milan and Kevin will do their best to match that pace, but should one of them fail to match that pace, it gives the other an advantage. So inherently, by not being in first in this pack, you have more chaos going on because you are no longer dictating the pace. You don't get to see, okay, well, the guy behind me is putting a lot of pressure on me. I'm just going to move the pace up a little bit. I'm maybe going a bit too slowly. By being in third, you don't have the opportunity to change the pace, to go faster when the driver behind is pressuring you a lot. So what we'll see here, I think, is Milan putting a lot of pressure on Kevin, and Kevin unable to necessarily negate that pressure. We'll have to see him properly soak it up this time, unlike how he could do before, where if Milan was getting too close, he just speeds up a little bit. But now he doesn't have that opportunity, and it is going to be safety car in this lap. It looks like Leroy might just about catch up to the back of the pack. He has done now, but now Fireblaze will become our effective safety car until the safety car is in the pit lane, which it is now. So we'll see Fireblaze, we'll see when he chooses to go ahead of Sasha.
And could this be the moment at the final corner? Because let's see then if Fireblaze decides to go halfway down the straight, not give the solution towards others, and he goes right now then, and let's see if anybody's close enough to make a lunge on each other, as Milan's so close behind Kevin, but can't get past. It's so difficult as we head down towards turn one. That is a hat up the inside there, but has to back out of it because Stefan had track position, and now we've got the McLaren versus the Sauber up the hill towards the Casino Square, but the Sauber a bit late to the brakes, had to cast, tries to go all the way on the outside, but he can't do it, as Nick stays in P7 for the time being. Power Seam is ahead of the Williams and Leroy. They're defended from him. There is only 10 drivers left in this race as well in Monaco, as Darny inside goes Leroy, but that's a risky move, but they make contact as well, banging wheels, but the Red Bull driver stays ahead for the time being then. So Fireblaze continues to lead this Grand Prix ahead of Sasha Hood in P2 on the mini compound tyres, remember, as well, so it could be a short stint for Sasha Hood in the Ferrari there in second place, as Kevin Zundberg's right behind. So like you said as well, this could be like a 2025 Monaco Grand Prix situation where Verstappen was leading for so long on all the tyres. Norris was stuck behind him, and Charles Leclerc was putting so much pressure on him as well. Every single corner got close by. Leclerc was poised to strike any given moment, right with the gearbox of the McLaren. But once Verstappen peeled into the pit lane, Norris was able to pull away, then able to win the Monaco Grand Prix ahead of Leclerc as well for Ferrari's first pit of the season. As we got somebody in the pit lane, that is Mum and Nick. So very early pit stop there. And is that for mid damage? No, it's not. So the kick Sauber then is making his way down the pit lane. It's a drive-through penalty. So, yes, he's got a service drive-through penalty there. I was wondering what he was doing, because there was no mechanics coming out of the garages, as it's a drive-through penalty there for Nick. As we see the top two then, with Fireblaze and Sasha Hood in first and second place, with Kevin right behind too, as we head down towards the hairpin we go. Look at that. Kevin, there's one thing Kevin can't afford, is to make contact with these two, because he knows that these two ahead of us have got to make another pit stop. So Kevin can't afford any contacts. Kevin's got to make sure he keeps Milan behind him as well, and the two ahead of us don't have to worry about them so much because they've got to complete their second mandatory pit stop. So Kevin can play it safe here at P3, but if there's any chances he'll go for an overtake, he'll go for it. But in terms of the championship as well, we've got to think long and hard, because it's a big chance for Kevin. He had the pace in qualifying, he's got the race pace here in Monaco as well, so he knows there's a big chance of winning the Grand Prix here to Monaco, so he can't afford to risk anything as well. Throw away those crucial points in the championship standings, especially back in Austria where it all went wrong for him in the reverse and in the feature race as well. But here he is on looking in fine form, is Kevin Zundberg, a man who is in PSGL F2 is Kevin, so he's definitely got some good pace underneath him, a good credit as well, and a high caliber tier driver as well. But here we are towards the top of the hill. He's right to the back of Sasha Hood, but it's so difficult to overtake right here. Let's see if he can try and force a lunge up the inside anywhere, but he can't do it so far for the time being.
Yeah, and I think what we'll see here is Kevin being on the hard compound tires, having a solid distance that he needs to go to bring them to the end of the race, but being stuck behind these two drivers. I would argue that what he needs to do right now is just to run his own race, to make sure he can make it to the end on these hards, just run his own race, keep calm, and stay collected. But do you know what the hardest thing to do when you're sat right behind two slower drivers is? It's to run your own race. All you want to do is you want to try and make a move on them. You can't help it. It's just this natural racer's instinct that you see a car in front of you that's not as fast. You really just want to overtake it. It's the only thing on your mind. And I think we'll see here Kevin struggling with that fact that he just really wants to get ahead of Sasha. But Monaco, of course, makes that extremely difficult. Even with the DRS that Kevin has, he doesn't even have an opportunity as he picks up a 3-second time penalty, and that could be disastrous for his hopes for the race win. Milan he's going to make a move, and there's contact.
There is contact between Kevin and Stefan there, Sasha Hood, sorry, because Kevin tried an audacious launch up the inside in towards the Casino Square, but came off worse of that, and he's got a 3-second penalty. This is going to play in towards our championship leader's hands of Milan Langer. After all, for 1 second, Sasha was going to let Kevin go because it looked like it, but he was actually just harvested EOS, saving the battery up as well. But Sasha Hood is causing a whole lot of pain behind him by keeping these guys at bay. But Kevin Zumberg now, his race gone from good to worse, as it looked good for him so far in the open segments of this Grand Prix. But now that 3-second penalty will have a huge consequence, and Milan Langer will take full opportunity as that. But of course, Milan himself has got to make sure he doesn't pick up any penalty in his Grand Prix too. So Milan's in the best spot so far in P4. Fireblaze is the leader and actually putting away from Sasha Hood. Maybe the Ferrari driver is struggling on his medium compound tyres, hence why the pace dropped between those two. The mediums do usually peak around here, but here comes Kevin up towards turn 1, makes the lunge and sticks it. Yep, he makes it stick as well, despite a slight tap against the wall in towards turn 1. Gets ahead, and now Milan's turn. He's got to make sure he gets ahead of Sasha Hood very quickly, because the one thing Milan can't afford to do is let Kevin escape down the road, although Kevin has got to catch Fireblaze. But this is a big chance. Will he dare someone to the inside? He's going to make a lunge. Oh, contact there. He squeezes his way through. In towards the hairpin. Now we go. Sasha Hood stays ahead. Here comes the Ferrari teammate up the inside too. That could be strategy between those two, as Milan desperate to stay ahead of one Ferrari, overtaking the other Ferrari. But the other Ferrari is ghosted inside him as well. Milan, can he get a decent exit now? This is his chance to overtake Sasha Hood. He's not giving up whatsoever because his teammate right behind knows there's a chance for a podium, but contact against the wall there. It's getting a bit messy between those two now. So Sasha Hood is becoming the villain in this Grand Prix by keeping Milan behind. But can Milan get the better exit? It's going to be a very risky move up the inside and towards the back. He makes it stick. Yes, he does. He's up into P3. And finally, he gets past. But the gap is 2.7 seconds. Could that moment in the Grand Prix cost Milan Langer a chance of a win? But bearing in mind, though, Kevin has still got to overtake Fireblaze as well. So the longer Kevin gets stuck behind Fireblaze, the more chance for Milan to reduce that gap under 3 seconds as well. But Sasha Hood not giving up, because he's trying to give his teammate a chance of a podium too, and that was good teamwork there. We've seen gamesmanship and teamwork between the drivers as well. Unfortunately, Milan was stuck there, but he did so well to keep ahead of the other Ferrari whilst attacking the other Ferrari ahead of him.
Yeah, some absolute chaos in the midsection of this race. We get to see Milan making the move eventually, though, but so much difficulty making that move. Multiple bits of contact with the other driver, with the wall, but he is through, and he's already closed down that gap to Kevin by about half a second. Now, that will be also affected by Kevin now being stuck behind Fireblaze, and that is exactly what Kevin wants to avoid. He needs to get past Fireblaze as soon as he can. Suddenly, overtaking doesn't just become a luxury, it becomes a necessity for Kevin, as he needs to pull out that 3-second gap to Milan, and we've got a driver out of the race at the chicane, and it's a full-blown safety car once again.
Fireblaze compares, but what will the rest of the field do as well? I think they're going to take track position, and yes, they are. Kevin's staying out as well. Let's see if anybody else stays out, because I think the tyres are okay at this stage of the Grand Prix. Maybe the hard compound tyres can go towards the end, but they might have a bit of management. This is worth for Fireblaze and P3, I dare say, on a new set of hard compound tyres. Could definitely take them towards the end, but unfortunately, it might rejoin a bit of traffic as well. So, despite leading for a few laps, The leader's gone, he's pitted, and let's see where he will rejoin. Behind Leroy, he's rejoined in P7 as well, but with the fresher hardcore powered tyres, which could make good use towards the end of the Grand Prix too. So watch out for him in the closer stages of the Grand Prix as well. But Stefan now has been moved up into P3. On the podium is the Ferrari driver, maybe P2, because Kevin Zundberg has got that 3-second penalty to serve at the end of the Grand Prix too. Sasha Hood did his teammate favours as well by keeping Milan at bay, but Stefan could not take advantage of the McLaren there. McLaren drivers just desperately knew there was a big chance of winning the Grand Prix. He did not want to let the Ferrari through at all. He needed to get past Sasha Hood quickly, otherwise Stefan have a chance. But he sustained the pressure really well despite that contact, despite those eerie moments in the Grand Prix. But 15 laps left to go in this race, and so far Milan has the advantage over Kevin in terms of having no penalties. But of course, Milan himself could pick himself up at 3-second penalty. So watch out for that factor as well. He's got to make sure he stays literally within the wide lines, don't run out wide, and keep up with Kevin's pace like he did in the first stint as well. So the race is in his hands, but Kevin himself, does he have the pace to break out that 3-second gap? Who knows? But all the questions will be answered. I think every single driver now has done their mandatory pit stop. Yes, they have. No, Torpe hasn't. He hasn't done his second stop yet because he went long in the first stint. He's up into P4, so maybe he could be a bit of a troublemaker as well in P4. But we'll see then. He's definitely going to make a second pit stop, and I dare say his strategy hasn't worked out whatsoever because he will join to the back of the field.
Yeah, very strange strategy there for Torpe. We'll see how that works out, but he could be a bit of a stopper in the bottle for the drivers behind who may struggle to get past him, and that could allow the top three to pull away a little bit. That could be very useful for Kevin, especially with his 3-second time penalty. And I've taken a look at the race director. Kevin has his time penalty plus 1 penalty, plus 1 warning, and Milan is similar with only 1 warning, just without the penalty. So both of them can afford to, technically speaking, can afford to extend track limits one more time, but none of them will want to. They'll all want to play it safe. They don't want to risk taking up, intentionally get another warning, trying to push it too far and then make a mistake and pick up another one. Neither of them will want to do that. They'll be absolutely desperate to keep it clean here. And we'll see how this goes. Stefan, I actually haven't checked his race director yet, but he does appear to have 2 warnings, actually. So he's only 1 extension away from a 3-second time penalty. It's very interesting to see how this will go. Penalties, although there's so much talk about how close the barriers are to the edge of the circuit at these tracks, at this track specifically, despite that, there's every opportunity to extend track limits if you just go to the right part of the track. Safety car in this lap. Let's see where Kevin decides to go.
Interesting you brought the fact up about penalties as well, because in a race I was fighting for a podium, and the guy behind me was catching up as well. I think the guy ahead of me was extending the gap because he was P3, I was P4. He had a 3-second time penalty and I didn't. I only had 1 warning. So what I did in Austria was I extended track limits on purpose to bring that gap under 3 seconds. There's contact between Milan and Kevin then as they make their way out of the final corner as foot to the floor. We get racing once again, and here comes the Williams and Leroy alongside the McLaren as he puts himself into P5, but Hattegas gets a 3-second time penalty. But that's a great move for Leroy, taking full advantage of the McLaren driver as we now head up towards, but he goes wide, and here comes McLaren back on him, but there's no way through. Leroy defends unless Hattegas can do a switch back as the Williams is in the wall. Here comes the McLaren driver up the inside. He makes his stick, goes deep in the corner, but still has the advantage over the Williams driver as we head in towards the hairpin we go. Milan still on the back of Kevin Zundberg. Milan's in a really good spot to win this Grand Prix. All he's got to do is not pick up a 3-second penalty, not hit the walls, but of course it's all easier said than done. Milan, with the experience in league races, the championship runner in first place in this division. He has all experience. He knows that Kevin's got a 3-second penalty, so therefore can extend the championship over Kevin Zundberg. But Kevin Zundberg doesn't have the pace to break away as Leroy has spun out the corner or slowed down, and there's only 9 people left in this Grand Prix. To expect this, people dropping out like flies, because the last time I commentated Monaco was about 2 years ago, and there was a full grid, 20 drivers, but only 7 or 8 finished. And yes, that's what we see plenty of times around here in Monaco, where only a minimum of people will finish. DRS is enabled, but of course we've seen how useless the tool is for DRS around here. But Torpe, as you expect, is under massive pressure with Hattegas and Fireblaze right behind. Fireblaze on a newer set of the hardcore power tyre, so he is going to be rapid towards in the Grand Prix, but it's all about, though, how is he going to manage this? Where is he going to overtake as well? Because he's got to overtake, but at the same time, it's so difficult as well. As he's right behind Hatagas for the battle for P5 and P6. Big tire difference, but of course, he doesn't have the track position in P6 there to overtake.
Yeah, and a lot of chaos in the midfield of this race now. Basically, from 3rd down to 9th is one big train. Leroy dropping a little bit off the back of that train. But overall, very, very close together here. And no moves being made on this lap, but drivers getting closer and closer towards the Nouvelle chicane. And it's very difficult to say when a move will be made. Stefan also pulling away from this train a little bit now. So it is really Torpe being the stopper in the bottle, as I had predicted during the safety car. But we'll see how long that lasts for, because as these drivers get slowed down more, they get closer to each other. There will be contact, there will be, hopefully, overtakes. It's very, very difficult to say how this will go. It's a little bit of a DRS train here down the start straight, but no overtakes being made yet. It's so close together. I think all of these drivers will be feeling immense pressure from each other, just waiting, knowing that they can make a move at any given point, as I think there was a little bit of contact from the wall for the McLaren driver, as Fireblaze is going to go down the inside. Can he pull off the move? It's going to be the outside for the hairpin, and he nudges ahead just before the braking zone, so he makes it through. And the Ferrari of Sasha is going to go around the outside of the hairpin. What a move!
Yeah, Hatzikas is ghosted there. I'm not quite sure why, but he's losing so much time. He was the one that hit the wall. I think it was out of the Casino Square, and that allowed Fireblaze to go up the inside and take away P5 as well with a great lunge around the outside. Now, putting big pressure on Torpe in front of us, as let's see then how quickly or how difficult Fireblaze can dispatch the fast man in front of us. He knows, or he probably doesn't know, that the driver ahead of him has got to make another mandatory pit stop. So once he does, he can rejoin all the way to the back of the field there, as Leroy gets another penalty to his name as we exit the final corner. Does Fireblaze have the pure grip out of the final corner to get closer with the aid of DRS? No, he doesn't. He stays behind for the time being there, but like he did to Hatakas, he's waiting for that opportunity where the driver in front of us makes a mistake out in the corners, and Fireblaze will take advantage. My voice is absolutely going as well, I'm not quite sure why. But here comes Fireblaze side by side, but he almost makes contact with the Haasman. He loses traction, snappy moments oversteer as well. He's got to keep the Ferrari behind him because the Ferrari is on the same strategy as the Alpine. That's who he's racing in P6 as well, so can't afford to give that place and be stuck behind the Ferrari drive. There's yellow flags in that sector as well. That's Stefan. Stefan has become a bit of a cropper in towards the hairpin too. Let's hope he doesn't have any damage now, but the rest of the field are catching up as well for good measure. Stefan gets going once again, but Fireblaze is right to the back of the Haasman. Where is he going to strike? He's going to try and brave it out on the outside. He can't do it, as the Haas stays in the middle of the racetrack. No way through for Fireblaze on that occasion. He stays in P5 for the time being, but ever so close to overtaking. But one small mistake could see Sasha Hood through as well.
Yeah, there is so much action here. And the wonderful thing, as there's a move into Raskas from the Ferrari, imitating Charles Leclerc, but there's an incident, he spun round. Just not enough space for two drivers to be side by side into turn 19, and it is disaster for Sasha, who looked so good there. Fireblaze will now carry on that legacy of the drivers who have pitted under the most recent safety car, and if he can get ahead of Torpe, if he can do it soon, he has the freshest tires of this front group. He can chase after Stefan and maybe, just maybe, after Milan and Kevin as well. But that requires him to get ahead of Torpe first and then Stefan. And those are both very, very difficult tasks.
Indeed it is. Then getting past the Haas is the first target. But once he does, catch up to the Ferrari. But I don't think that Stefan... He'll defend as much as he can against Fireblaze, seeing what happens to his teammate. I know Stefan and Sasha Hood will be working together as well in the party, although once in the Discord call, because there is a Discord server where drivers do call each other because on different consoles. So maybe Stefan and Sasha Hood are working there together. And once Fireblaze overtakes the Haas, if he does, well, when he does actually, because that's the question of when, not if, because the Haasman will pit sometime, but I'm not quite sure when, to get in the pit lane to his mandatory second pit stop. Milan Lange in front of him, or in front of us, in first and second place, are still catching the back of Kevin Zunderberg as well, putting the pressure on the Aston Martin, but he doesn't need to put the pressure on because he knows the driver in front of him has that penalty to his name as well. So Milan, all he's got to do is make sure he doesn't hit the wall, exceed track limits as well, because if he does, they'll be back in the level play field, and that means Milan will have to overtake Kevin. But Kevin there, first place, vulnerable, can literally do nothing about it, with Milan being so quick in the race as well, doing a fantastic job again, is Milan Langer. Really stepped up his game as well. Of course, I know Milan as a commentator. He commentates with me every single week in PSGL and SDN. But when I got announced as a commentator, it was so weird to actually say his name in a race because we've worked with each other so long as well. And Fireblaze, he's trying around the outside, but is there any space given? No, there isn't, of course. But Fireblaze gets a better exit ahead of the Haasman, forces his way through, literally, and he gets ahead up into P4 next. Almost lost it as well. Massive oversteer, almost put it in the barriers as well. As Sasha Hood gets a 3-second penalty. But Fireblaze, when he catches the Ferrari driver, how difficult will it be? Because Stefan will do everything he can to keep Fireblaze behind, because Stefan is looking for his first podium of the season as well in the Ferrari, as his teammates experienced the podium too back in Imola. But Stefan wants a piece of the action as well, wants a medal added to his name and boost Ferrari's championship aspirations in the constructors as well. You can see how much time is gained as well, because tour pace dropped back massively as Sasha Hood gets ahead of Khatikas. So those two, I'm not quite sure what happened to Khatikas there, whether he lost it on traction or not, but Sasha Hood now up into P6 and now puts the pressure on the Ferrari, making his way through because he's made contact with Fireblaze before the final corner, and he's looking for a damage and redemption as well to get past the Alpine as quickly as he can and put pressure on Fireblaze in front of us.
Yep, and I think Sasha is just an absolute man on a mission right now. After that incident with Fireblaze, they were dropped to 9th position. They've already made up 3 positions again, and they're looking for a 4th on Torpey. I don't think it'll be into this chicane, although there's a bit of shoving going on here. Oh, he just about avoids the wall there. It is going to get messy in this Monaco Grand Prix. I say that as if it hasn't already gotten messy. It's just going to continue to get messier, though, and we'll see, can Sasha make a move on Torpey soon? See if he can take it, up the inside into Raskas. That is a bit of a shovey move. Bit pushy there, but does make the move in the end. He is up into 5th position, and will now chase after Fireblaze. Sasha is just an unmovable object, unstoppable force, if you will.
Yep, and he's forced his way through up into P5 there. Fireblaze is catching Stefan at a rate of knots, but of course Stefan will do everything in his power to keep ahead of the Alpine driver. He knows there's a big chance for a podium, but with the Alpine with fresher tyres, much better tyres at this stage of the Grand Prix, is catching him at a rate of knots as well. But can Stefan defend against the Alpine driver Fireblaze? So what he made contact with one Ferrari has Fireblaze, maybe the second Ferrari as well. Might get a bit messy between those two because Fireblaze is desperate for a podium, so is Stefan as well. And Sasha Hood could be on the horizon too soon as well, putting pressure on Fireblaze. But Milan Langer being so consistent so far, up into second place, a fantastic flawless drive, but there's still about 6-7 laps left to go in the Grand Prix. So can't jinx it, and really hope that Milan Langer does get the most amount of points as well, because he's done such a fantastic job, has Milan Langer. But Kevin Zundberg, there's nothing he can do unless Milan Langer gets a 3-second penalty or hopes and prays that Milan puts it in the wall. But so far Milan is doing a superb job, being very consistent, keeping up with the pace of Kevin as well, and keeping Kevin on his toes for the whole Grand Prix, because Milan has not let Kevin out of sight at any given moment during the course of this Grand Prix. It's these two in first and second place. Kevin will get second place because the gap between second and third is quite high as well, 10.3 seconds. So Kevin's best bet is P2. Just praying that Milan somewhere slips up in the next few laps and gets that 5-second penalty, or 3 shall I say.
So on that note, I also want to point out that I've been periodically checking the race director, as Milan's got a run on Kevin here. He's going to go down the inside of the Nouvelle Chicane. There's contact.
Why?
And Milan nearly spins round.
Why would you do that? Because it's so tight going into towards chicane. These two are fighting for a championship, of course, and I was lost loads of time. That could have ended in tears. It could have put him with a broken front wing or lost his tyres as well. Kevin came out worse. He got a 6-second penalty. That's an audacious... I know Milan wants to win on the track. Every single driver wants to win on the track for pride, for ego, for the bragging rights, but at the same time, you've got to think methodically as well. You can't afford to make these sort of lunges, but luckily, both came unscathed, but Kevin does have a 6-second penalty, so Kevin will not be happy with Milan Langer either with that 6-second penalty now, but Milan escaped from it, and he should be able to win this Grand Prix because Kevin does have a 6-second penalty, so there's no way Kevin can build over a 6-second gap in the course of 4 laps. But Milan seems to be struggling a bit as well after contact with Kevin, but hopefully he can catch up towards the Aston Martin man and try once again. But if I was in Milan's shoes, I'd just stay behind in P2 because, you know, if it was on the tracks, then go for it because obviously you want to win the race on the track. But like a track around Monaco, one small mistake could have big consequences, and especially for a heated up championship battle between these two, you can't afford to throw away those points at all, as Fireblaze is right behind the Ferrari driver of Stefan. This is going to get very spicy and interesting now in the Grand Prix, because Stefan will do everything in his power to keep ahead of Fireblaze, and what happened to his teammate as well in towards this Rascash corner where he made contact with him, it could be Stefan who could try everything he can at his disposal to keep Fireblaze behind.
Yeah, Stefan will be wanting to keep P3, and even if it weren't for his own benefit, he would try to hold up Fireblaze for Sasha's sake. So I can't imagine Stefan will be letting Fireblaze through under any circumstances whatsoever. Even if it weren't for his own chance at the podium here, he'd play the team game, I would imagine. But of course, more importantly than the team game, it is an opportunity at a podium for Stefan, for the Ferrari driver. Can he take it in Monaco, get the podium? We are yet to see. Fireblaze will do everything he can to stop him from getting it. He's actually going to look up the inside here, thinks better of it. Does not go for the move quite yet. We've only got a few laps left in this race. He's going to have to make the move eventually, but he's going to have to make sure he does it cleanly, or else he risks losing a position even to Sasha, who is getting increasingly close to the back of these two. The gap down to 2.2 seconds between them, although Sasha does have 3 seconds worth of time penalties.
He does indeed. How desperate is Fireblaze goes to get against Stefan? His rival's right there for the taking on newer tyres. There is 3 laps left to go. The time is ticking down and running out for Fireblaze as well, and he will try everything. One slip up from Stefan and Fireblaze will go through. But now, with Stefan holding up Fireblaze, he's got the other Ferrari behind him as well to keep an eye out too. So Fireblaze could be in a bit of a predicament in a Ferrari sandwich. And given what happened a few laps ago against Fireblaze and Sasha Hood, it could happen again because Sasha Hood might be driving hot under the colour and not cooled down after what happened, because he'd be desperate to take away P4 as well. So maybe Fireblaze could have contact with both Ferraris as well. Let's see if it does happen or not. Hopefully it doesn't. But Milan Langer, the gap was 2.2 seconds. That was 1.1. His pace has been absolutely mighty in this race. Maybe Kevin, with the qualified setup, maybe qualified setup for him, but maybe not the race pace setup because he'd be struggling a bit. But blistering lap time of qualifying, but under pressure throughout the whole race as well. But of course, qualified is very important because that literally makes up the story of how this race is going to go. But with 3 laps left to go in this Grand Prix, the main battle to watch out for is Fireblaze, Stefan, and Sasha Hood in P5 too. So watch out for those 2, or those 3, shall I say.
Yeah, very, very interesting here. We'll see. We've only got 2 laps left after this one. 3 drivers in the fight for the final podium position, although with one of them having a time penalty and being the last of that trio, a less likely outcome for him. But he can help his teammate here if he can get ahead of Fireblaze. Fireblaze is in a Ferrari sandwich, Ferrari bread, Alpine filling. Let's see how this goes for Fireblaze. He drops a little bit further behind Stefan on this lap. We'll see what he can do, as there is a yellow flag in Sector 3. That is just Leroy, not making too much of a difference to the overall race with that yellow flag, luckily, though. Milan sits 8 tenths behind, but as we said, the fight really is for 3rd position. Fireblaze not far off the back of Stefan. Stefan, a little bit of a floaty rear end there. And we'll see through the hairpin, can he pull away at all? If you look backwards from the back of Stefan, you see an Alpine and a Ferrari right on the back of him. Either of those could have an opportunity. Who will it be making the move first? Hopefully a clean one.
We hope play indeed, but we know what Monaco's like with the time in and out, drivers desperate to make those moves, knowing there's a podium on the cards, knowing he's on the better tyres, but it's just an object in the way for Fireblaze. Stefan, I think he's got this covered, unless Stefan makes a mistake, because all he needs to do is get a good exit out of the corners, like from the Portier down towards the chicane, and out of the final corner in towards turn 1 with the DRS enabled. It's all about the exits as well, literally around this circuit as Fireblaze makes its way around the final corner. This is the last lap of the Grand Prix. The fight for P3 is well and truly on, but unfortunately for Fireblaze, he just can't seem to find a way past, and this could be his last chance as well. It could be his last chance, and I dare say Stefan has this in the bag, unless of course he himself makes a mistake like he did at the hairpin, but still kept it pointed in the right direction, and he didn't have any front mid damage at all, so that's helped Stefan a lot as well in this Grand Prix. Fireblaze, well, there's no chance now unless he can get a good run. You can see the Ferrari driver just harvested energy. He knows that he's got to harvest as much energy as he can to keep the RP driver at bay. These tyres have run a long way as well in the Grand Prix, so tyre wear for them is going to be at their best as well. The tyres will be absolutely shot at this stage of the Grand Prix. I don't think there'll be no punches as well towards these all-runners, but they should be okay towards the Grand Prix, and that's probably Fireblaze's last chance to try and make a move on Stefan in front of us. So we watch for the top two then. Here comes Milan, here comes Kevin. Great pace from them both, but ultimately in the end it'll be Milan Langer who'll take the victory, and he wins at the Monaco Grand Prix for McLaren like Lando Norris did this year, and take maximum amount of points as well. Great drive from Milan Langer. Didn't pick up a 3-second penalty. A bit of a moment going down into the chicane, but hopefully, well, luckily for those two, kept it out of the walls, and Kevin finishes in P2. Stefan holds on to a podium in P3 for his first podium of the season. That's one each for both drivers. Fireblaze in P4, as we've got more people come towards the line as well. We've got Hatakas and Kevin Zumberg and Torpe, and last but not least is Leroy Nick up into P6 in the Kickstarter 2. Great race for him. Wow, what a race that was. I know it could be a bit boring, but expect that from around the Principality of Monaco.
Yeah, and I think for Monaco, that was, Monaco really delivered there in terms of the chaos. You don't get the opportunity for an incredible amount of clean overtakes necessarily, but the drivers did well here to make what opportunities they had stick, and it's just a shame it wasn't, it wasn't a different track that could provide closer racing, but Monaco, always interesting, and an entertaining race nonetheless.
Hold up a second. Torpe has only done one stop, and now the game will disqualify you if you only do one stop, and he's done it towards the end, so he's literally done a one-stop strategy there as the Haas driver, and it did disqualify him, so that's quite interesting there. But a lot of people in the chat are not happy with Torpe because of him trying to defend as much as he can on all the tyres. Never going to work out, but forward on to Milan Langer, and he'll extend his championship over Eric and over Kevin Zumberg as well. Kevin Zumberg unlucky with that 3-second penalty and 6 as well when he got forced off the road by Milan in towards the hairpin, or chicane shall I say. But the next race of the season is at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Now, hopefully you'll be back with me next to It's our first time commentating with each other since 2023, and it's nice to have a reunion as well.
Yeah, it was really good to be back. I'm glad we could get commentating together, and especially an enjoyable race like this, a great league. My first time commentating here, but it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun indeed. Now, I did wake up about a few hours ago, and I am ill, not to mention as well. My voice has been going throughout this race as well, so apologies about the slip-ups as well. Not really my best commentary I delivered so far. A bit difficult as well with a race like this, but my voice is going. I literally got, not to quote Murray Walker, but I've literally got a sore lump in the back of my throat, so that's why I was struggling to commentate for this race. But hopefully I'll be back properly next Tuesday for the next race of the season, which is the Hungarian Grand Prix, as we move over to the Hungarian Grand Prix next week. We'll see you all later. Goodbye for now.